So with our handsome Mr. K, ready, sir? I wanted to warm up a little bit with going to a placemat, yes, and then maybe warming up a little bit with some targeting, and then maybe doing a couple puppy push-ups. So remember, mat work could be as refined or not as you would like. So I like to, for example, typically use a target if, let's say, he gets, again, a little excited. So very normal for babes when they get a little jazzed or a little unsure about something is sometimes to do this jumping. I just ignore or try to ask for something I'd rather. So a nice little sit is great. You'll see that I tend to feed a couple snacks while he is keeping all four on the floor. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and send him away with a little snack just for a moment so I can see if I can get him to place back on the bed and then right there, yes, and feed him for that. So I tend to make it where the fun tends to happen on the mat because eventually I might even pair this with that lovely stay behavior for down the road. So for right now, he's like, lady, I'm just so excited. Ready? I'm going to do another little find it, get him up and wiggling. So remember, jumping can also be your dog's way of communicating that maybe they're feeling a little overtired. Maybe they're a little bit unsure of what we're asking, and because of some of that maybe confusion or frustration, then they might do some jumping. I tend to, for example, again, just ignore things I don't like within a safety measure. So if it's something that is dangerous, we're not going to go ahead and, for example, ignore something that's not going to be good for you or the dog. But if, let's say, they're jumping and you could disengage and let them slide off and then ask for the skill you'd prefer, that's a much better option right there. Yes, very nice. So I'm just marking these lovely moments where he's setting up on the dog blanket. Nice. He's like, did you throw it? But if, again, we're looking to behavior is not right or wrong or good or bad, but more a place of where is my dog coming from for comfort range, understanding, and potentially feelings as well. Because if the dog is feeling flustered, then sometimes normal dog responses like excessive mouthing, barking, chasing, and of course jumping can occur when your babes are feeling flustered or too jazzed. So again, we're going to bring him to his little bed. Nice. We're going to see if there we go, right there. Beautiful. Feed for the lovely four on the floor, bum on the ground, whatever works. Hi, Hippo. Did you want to help in a minute? Okay. Can you give mommy 1 second? Oh my goodness, chewing. Oh gosh, chewing is so hard. I'm going to grab his leash and then I'll come help you. So Ebba wants to come be a helper. So maybe we'll take a little break from the mat and then we can do maybe some proper hellos. Ebba, would you like to be my helper for the highs? You don't have to pat. You did a good job. So my little one said she didn't want to disturb me, so she put her shoes on all by herself, which is very impressive. So good job, my lovey. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little find it here. Going to grab his leash and then help my little one come in. And then we can work a little bit with these proper hellos. And we can then go back to some of that target training or mat training in just a second. So we're going to be out of camera shot just for a second while I go to open up the fence zone for her. Here we go. And you can kind of close it when you pop in. There you go. And then close it again and then come on over. So we'll maybe move the target mat off to another little spot and then we'll come back to it. So right, we'll do another little find it's over here. Get them up and wiggling. Grab the crumbs off of there. I'm just going to plop it maybe just over here. I'm just going to plop it over here so it's out of the way. So ready? So Hippo, you stay there for a second. So when we're working with proper hellos, we want to make sure first step is, can the puppy be successful? And if, let's say, there are moments where the dog is nervous or excited or flustered, ready? We don't want to set them up for a moment where they're not going to do well because they're past their comfort range. So there's that little find that we lost earlier. So Ebba, mommy's going to do a couple approaches to you, and then I might show him, again, that being near you equals maybe check in with me or some find its, okay? And then we'll do a couple little highs in a minute. So first step would be how I approach my friend. So if, let's say, my puppy or my dog could care less about the company or the distraction, I would then go ahead and feed for all those moments where as we're approaching, they're staying, again, more interested in me than they are the company. So you'll see he might even be a little bit in front of me, which is no big deal. But I want him to make sure that if he did get interested in the distraction, he couldn't make his way to her by pulling and getting there on top of her. So because even if your puppy has really nice intentions, like going to say hi, and they're very interested in that new person, we don't want it to be that hauling gets you to that person or friend. because then pulling might be the part that they're thinking you love because it's how they get to their company. So ready? We'll get a little sit. He's like, what if I sit right in front of the lady? So if he's a little excited, I might set him up here. And then he's doing a good job, huh? Yeah. So Mr. K is doing a splendid job. You'll see my leash is nice and relaxed, but it's short enough where if I had to help him, he can't go and reach the small person and bombard her with some loveys. So if, let's say, we were going to do a little hi, Ebba, is it okay if he comes to smell? But then you don't have to pat him yet, okay? So he's just going to come visit. So let's say your puppy's doing really nicely with approaching and moving away or passing by the person. So let's say you can walk by the lovely distraction person and your pup is feeling pretty cozy and can pass on by. That was beautiful. Then I'd say you could start doing some more little highs where the dog could get a little bit closer, and then you can get them into a little sitting position if it's possible. He's like, lady, I can do meerkat dance moves. If he's a little eager beaver for the food, that's just why we're getting some of this little jump in right there, yes. He sometimes is a little bit unsure what to do when he gets a little jazzed, so he does a little bit of wiggles and he goes into the position. So I'm feeding, are you doing a little wiggle too? So I'm getting him to be nearby, and then I might say to him, let's go say hi, or let's go visit, and then that way you can start to put that into a cue of maybe going and sniffing the person or visiting. Remember though that not every dog will want to engage with brand new strangers, and not every dog wants to get touched. So we want to make sure that when the puppy does get the chance to do a little hello, that it's at also the dog's rate. His tail's a good fan. Yeah, it is. So we might say to Mr. K, did you want to go say hi? And then we'll go smell the lovely little lady. He's like, I don't even care. So again, if he's not so interested, which is fine, no big deal. Hey, Ebba, if I gave you a couple snacks, would you toss some on the ground for him? Oh, his tail got you. He's got a very nice tail. You want to go say hi? So right there, I might go yes and feed for that. So what I tend to do too is feed for the dog going near the thing at their rate, but I'm not pairing the food to bring them over there to that thing. So because if the pup was ever too excited or too overwhelmed, if your dog's an eager beaver and now he thinks every new person is going to have food on them, it might make those trying to ignore someone even harder. Or it could turn a nervous dog into a conflict moment where they would love to have the snack. Ready? Sit. Good job. They would love to have the snack, but now it's attached to the spooky thing. And had there been no food anywhere near that person, they would have never gotten so close. So we really want to make sure that the hello, so we might go, ready? You want to go say hi? He's like, how are you today? Did you want to pat a little bit, Ebba? What a good job. He's like, well, hello there, lady. He likes to lean a little bit. So if, again, he's not so interested, we'd move him away again. Nice. You could, for example, if he's very comfortable with the new person and again, if we get some jumping, don't worry, that's just a little overexcitement right there, yes. So I feed for the moments I'd prefer. So remember, training is not going to be linear. It's not going to be perfection, but what you're looking for is progression in the direction you both were hoping to get to. So if there's certain things that are a little bit harder for your babe, you may at times have to lower the criteria and help them out. Two, when your puppies do a little jumping, it could also be a symptom of them being tired. So a lot of times as they're practicing at doggy day school, even though I do give them little rest periods, it's not like resting at home where they feel most comfortable. So we're going to approach again. Would you like to go say hi? And he's like, come touch me. So go ahead, you can pat him a little bit. He's like, that's my butt. Would you like it? Nice job. So you can see he's almost doesn't even care about the novel person. He's just more interested in what the crazy snack lady's up to. So again, we might get another little situation where he comes into my space, get a little check-in. So, but it's nice to see he's not getting as excited around the little. Some pups have a really hard time with new friends, right? And they get really excited. So this is a great moment for Mr. Handsome where he's already done a few of their skills prior, so he's a little bit tired. So if, let's say, he was way too excited but not nervous, you could also do some nice find its to the sides of the distraction person. So that way, the target itself has less value and the food near and around the thing is more of the benefit. So now as opposed to looking to the lovely lady in the middle here for some distractions and some maybe jumping or frolicking, he can now do a couple find its near the new friend. Nice job. So, but you'll see that I'm the main person to supply the reinforcements while he's practicing near the new distraction hello person. So we might get another little setting up. So sitting is just an option. If your dog is too excited or nervous and sitting still is too hard, movement behaviors are better. Would you like to say hi? So I'm going to bring him over to say hello. Nice. That was very, oh, chewing is so hard. Right there, what a good job. Oh my goodness, and we'll feed a little tidbit. Nice. Thank you, my lovey. So, but Mr. K is doing a splendid job with these little hellos, right? He's doing a nice job, right, Abba? He says, I'm a hungry hippo. So if he's a little jumpy, all four on the floor.
It has the watercolor.
It does. It's very pretty. Yeah, he's kind of like a really nicely toasted piece of toast or marshmallow. So he's got a little itch on his leg, he says. Like a toast dog. He's very handsome. So, but Ebba, can you add a little bit of movement? Do you mind walking around the room with me a little bit? So the benefit of sometimes also then going from a stationary person is, oh my gosh, that was a good burp. He just burped while practicing. Is that, but sometimes burps happen, right? So the benefit of this is now as my little one is also meandering, a lot of times movement for dogs is exciting or triggering or overwhelming or the beginning of play. So the benefit of rocking a little bit with your distraction person, adding some movement, is it's a little bit more real world than having every single time you do a hi, having the person be stationary and you're doing your little approach. So remember though that everything starts at the lower end. Oh, okay, just be gentle. So ready? So with Mr. K, we want to make sure that if we're ever, that's all right, Hippo, but mommy's trying to talk, so give me one moment. So as Mr. K is doing well with the basics, remember that basic skills are advanced skills, but mastered and refined. So if you're finding he's doing a really great job right there, yes. So him being soft and watching the little and then not going to go bombard her is a really nice decision on his part. So sometimes I'm feeding for behavior, and then other times I'm feeding for a skill set. So like, loose leash walking versus a stay versus a look at me or something like that. So throughout this, we're just practicing a little meandering and then feeding for all these really nice moments where he does check-ins. But if you ever get, again, a little bit with that jumpy or mouthy behavior, it could be that he's overtired, he's a little bit flustered, he doesn't understand what's happening. So remember, furry little exchange student that doesn't know what's expected of him verbally, culturally, or physically. So if, again, you're finding he's doing a real nice job, remember you can feed, like I mentioned earlier, across the body. You could feed, I find for most students, the feeding right from the side the puppy's on is the easiest for most folks. Yeah. Well, that's some good jumping. Just don't lose your balance. So, but Mr. K is doing a splendid job. So, yeah, good jumping. So the best bet for our handsome guy is obviously when practicing around other family members or friends or random people that might want to come visit, remember that your dog is not on display for everybody else. So even though I know we love to have dogs that want to get bombarded by every new person or dog or inanimate object, remember that a lot of times it's not always the greatest setup for your dog, because either they're going to start, oh my gosh, chewing, is they're going to start to think that every new person or setup is going to always equal instant gratification and touching. And maybe for some dogs that's stressful, and for others it's way too exciting. So we want to also practice sort of being comfortable around social setups, but not having to be intimate with all of them. Because if your babe doesn't realize how to take a break from something they find exciting, or something that kind of revs the engine, your babe may never really be able to bounce back from that type of excitement, and they might even get frustrated. So some babes that are overly exuberant and then don't get to the thing they were hoping can become frustrated. And in that frustration, what they end up doing is they can then start to bark and lunge and look like they're dealing with some reactivity that for some folks even looks like aggression, but it could be barrier frustration. It could be, again, for some of the beauties, nice check-in, sir, is it can turn into, I would really like to go see that thing. Ready? Find it. Is he a little slimy? He just wanted to give you a little smoocheroo. So if, for example, feeling like they're going to miss out on something, they get frustrated, it can then turn into potentially other behaviors down the road. Ready? Find it. So we just don't want things to snowball into one zone or another. And we want to make sure that he can go from that on-off switch during play to also the on-off switch sort of during distractions. But remember, having a dog that's completely neutral and nonchalant to everything, oh my goodness, is not always a realistic expectation, because look at us. We also have likes and dislikes, things that we struggle with, things that we do amazing. And because all of us are individuals, we may struggle with one thing versus another. So I think, though, Mr. K is doing a very, very good job for just day number 2 in the program. And we'll just kind of keep rocking and rolling for the rest of the day. And he's just doing a really nice job. So great check-in, sir. So, but we'll give him a little breather, take a little break for the handsome man, and rotate.